Welcome, Clint. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books.
Oh, hey, happy to be here.
That's when you say, thanks for
That was
having
my
me.
cue. I missed
Your
my
cue.
cue. I'm not very professional. I'm not very good at this. People are always like, why don't you go live? And I'm like, because I'm so awkward.
No, you're not awkward. And you're
Well,
so funny. I
appreciate
like
that.
started reading this book like not in the best mood. And you know those moods when you're like, I just don't feel like laughing. I don't want to get out of my bad mood. I just want to
Sure.
like kind of like marinate in it for a while. And I was reading your book and you made me laugh a few times out loud. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, fine. I'm not in a bad mood anymore.
Oh, that's good.
I know
That
it's
was the
good.
goal.
Yes,
Is
it's
I think I'm funny, and that's the most important part.
good.
But like it's because like my family, I think they're tired of me. They've known me for so long, like my siblings and my mother in particular. And so I love to bring up at like family dinners that I'm a recognized humorist. Like I'll be like, you guys know I'm a recognized humorist. I'm a funny guy, and everybody at the table just like groans.
You can always trust your family to put you in your place.
Generally, yep, your family and your children, definitely.
So, Fatherish is your latest book, Laugh
Uh-huh.
Out Loud Tales from a Dad Trying Not to Ruin His Kids' Lives.
Uh-huh.
And you have an amazing blog, and you've written other books, and you just have this way of making all these everyday moments in parenting life really funny and relatable, and you end up like really rooting for you in a, you compare yourself often in this book, at least to Clark Griswold, who was, as a child of the 80s, my, dad hero of sorts or something.
Sure.
I don't know. But you're much less awkward, it seems, than Clark.
Well, I think it's funny because like I have like my blog, it's no idea what I'm doing, and I'm getting across platforms. I'm getting like close to 500,000 followers, which seems really cool. But I still have a day job, so it can't be that cool. but but what is funny is like I often have people say, "Oh man, I wish we were neighbors," or "I wish we could have dinner or hang out." And I'm like, you would be shocked how boring I am in real life. I think what I'm good at is just finding the humor in just boring things. But like for the most part, I'm just like this 30-something-year-old dude just wandering around in sweatpants. Like I'm not that interesting. But I've just been lucky enough to be able to find some of that humor, and I've been lucky to have, I guess, like my wife is willing to let me do it. Like she's allowed me to be able to just kind of write freely about our kids and her, and they're the most interesting people I got. I mean, easily. And so I've been lucky enough to be able to just kind of sit down and be able to find the humor in it.
And so when did you start writing? Did this precede your kids? Like, did you write as a kid yourself, or is it something that came up when you just had all this material in your head suddenly?
Well, so I don't know how far back I want to go on this, right? Because
Go all the way
go
back.
all the way back.
Yeah.
I was not one of those kids. So I graduated high school and I didn't know how to type, and I'd never read a novel. I don't know how. I was like a failure of the education system. And when I met my wife, I was 21, and I told her I wanted to go to college, but I didn't know how to type. And she was like, "Oh, well, I'll help you." And so she actually typed my papers when I first started college. So I would handwrite them, and my spelling would be so bad and my handwriting was so bad she couldn't actually read it. So I would sit next to her, and she was living in this apartment across the street from the liquor store, like just this rundown, crappy apartment. And I would read the papers to her and she would type them. And that was like when we first started dating. I couldn't help but like fall in love with her. But I was really scared to take like English, like composition, and all that sort of stuff when I got into college. And then I finally did, and I had a really great professor. I got really lucky. And one of the first assignments was to write a humorous essay. And I wrote a story about when I crapped my pants my freshman year in PE. And everybody just thought it was so funny. And I had so much fun writing it. And the professor was like, I mean, this is really unfortunate what happened to you, but this was really, really funny and well done. And that was kind of, I guess, when I got the writing bug. And so I changed my major from power line technology to English. And my family, like my mother was like, what are you going to do with that? And I just told her homeless, because it's what she wanted to hear. It was like the easier answer. And I started writing a lot about, so, my blog is titled No Idea What I'm Doing. It's because my dad had a drug addiction. I didn't know him very well. So he was in and out of my life. And that was kind of how I felt going into dad stuff. But anyways, I started writing, a lot of essays that were funny. And then I started writing a lot of like serious stuff. And then I eventually went and got an MFA in creative writing. And I thought I was going to write this like heartbreaking tragedy memoir, like Liars Club type of thing. And I finished my MFA, and I spent like a summer as a stay-at-home dad trying to sell the book. And I was rejected I have a whole spreadsheet. It's like a spreadsheet of shame. And I have like 200 plus agents and small publishers in there that rejected me. And I was so depressed and so frustrated. I thought, I got to do something different. And I took the dust off this blog that I created as an undergrad and just started writing about my kids. It was something else. I didn't think anyone would be very interested in my kids, but maybe they would. And the first thing I published on there was about being a stay-at-home dad. I think it was read by 1,000 people, and my head just exploded. I thought, what? 1,000 people read this? I mean, the last literary journal I was published in was North Dakota Quarterly. How often do you read that? Yeah.
Anytime I'm in North Dakota.
Always, every time.
I'll always pick it up. Yeah.
Every quarter it comes in my mailbox, right? I mean, I think the circulation was 300, and it's a very respected journal and blah, 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 blah. But I'm pretty sure I read it, the essay, and the managing editor. I think those are the two people that actually read that edition. And so I just was like, wow, 1,000 people read it. So I just started posting on my blog every day for 5 days a week. And I was like, let's see what happens. And, and I did it for a year. And by the end of the year, I got in the attention of the Huffington Post. So I wrote for them. And then I wrote for the Washington Post and the New York Times. And then I had this one post just like explode on the Washington Post. And like Good Morning America came to my house. It was like the worst experience. Like, don't ever, if Good Morning America wants to come to your house, you tell them no. Like, it's so awkward. Like, they were following me around and my kids for like, I don't know, it was like 8 hours or something. It was some obscene amount of time. And I think I was on the show for maybe 5 minutes. And so I thought, okay, I should be able to publish a book. And then I sent it out. I started trying to publish like a book about parenting, and I got rejected like 200 times again. So I have like 2 spreadsheets of shame. So I actually self-published my first book. And then eventually I was able to I ended up getting attention of Page Street, which is distributed by Macmillan, and that's who published my last 3 books. But that's like you said, go all the way back. It was a long. That's
what story. I wanted. I find that whole thing was really interesting.
It was a long journey, and I'm here now, and I've just kept it at it. I've just kept blogging, kept writing, and fingers crossed. Hopefully, I'll make all sorts of money. And, I'll be able to be like a full-time writer. That's my goal now.
And you said you have another day job. What's your day job?
I work in an athletics program. I tell the student athletes to do their homework. So I'm really popular, as you can imagine. And I've done that I've been there 6 years now, something like that. So it's a good university job, and it's fine. Like, I love helping students. I love education. I never really got out of the university once I got into it. But at some point, I would love to just flip my desk, and peace out and be a writer full time. But that's a lot harder than you'd think.
I mean, at least you have to put it out there, right? You have to get that goal out there. And if you don't have it as a goal, it's definitely not going to happen. So,
well, I'm surprised how many people think I just write full time. They like think this is what I do. And I'm like, no, that'd be cool though. Be great. Maybe someday. It is a hard profession in that regard, unfortunately, because it's the talent is not commensurate with the compensation in the slightest in this industry, I will say. But and it's funny you talk about how you couldn't sell your book about parenting, because I actually had the same experience. I was doing all this essay writing about parenting and all these like everyday moments and whatever. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is, I'll do a whole book about it and whatever. And like everyone in the industry keeps saying like, no, books on parenting don't sell. And it's so hard. And meanwhile, I read books on parenting all the time, and I love essay books like this, and so do other people. So I don't know. I think it depends on the book, like with everything else. And I think blanket statements like, book of essays don't work, or parenting stories don't work, or it's not that. You just have to have the right storyteller.
I
Well,
think.
I think, I think a lot of people get caught up in the rejection, right? And I'm telling you right now, like, I was rejected hundreds of times. It's got to be in the thousands by now across periodicals and essays and books and different things. And it used to really emotionally cripple me. And now I just kind of wrap my arms around it. I give it a hug, I pull it in. It's just, it is what it is. Rejection is a huge part of it. And I don't know, man, if I had given up, after that first rejection or whatever, I wouldn't be, selling books and having people message me and say that they, I helped them with X, Y, and Z. I mean, there's really cool stuff that happens with it. And we're in a really cool time where they're really, I mean, yeah, they say no. Okay, cool. Self-publish. You know what I mean? Put it up on a blog. Put it out there. Keep trying. There are so many avenues to publish right now. And it's a really cool time to be a writer. I mean, think about this. I am living in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, right? And I've started a blog most of the time writing at the McDonald's play place at 5:00 in the morning because there were no kids around and they had diet soda, and I could just get jacked up on Diet Coke and write for 2 or 3 hours. And I've been doing, I mean, I don't go there now, but I've been doing stuff like that for years. And in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, I've been able to put together like 500,000 followers and have 3 books out. Like, I mean, what other time could you do that? I don't know. I mean, it's a cool time to be able to do it.
That's true. I like that. It's very optimistic. And yet you also have this same sort of sad side to you as well, right? Which I think a lot of humor comes from pain to begin with, right? But you write openly about on your blog about having anxiety and depression, and even when you tinkered with your meds,
Sure. Yeah.
and even stories in this book about how your dad was there more for your older brothers and taught them to do more of the handy things, and you missed out on that, and so you tried to teach your son, which ended up being like hilarious, another hilarious story. But there's a lot of there's sadness in all of this, and this is like your way of channeling it, and yet you also share it, which is very unique, I think, for most, not to make sweeping generalizations, but a lot of men aren't as
Yeah.
comfortable sharing all of that. So tell me a little bit about that piece of you, and sort of coping with what happened with your own dad and coping with your own mental stuff.
Well, I mean, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. Like, I was probably 19, I think, is when that started to really hit home. And now I think I live a pretty normal life. I don't think I was ever I was never Jack Nicholson, bad in, what is that movie? As Good as It Gets. I was definitely never Bill Murray in What About Bob. I never got that bad, but I definitely had a lot of, and I still struggle a lot with anxiety. And a lot of it has to do with, having kind of a difficult childhood. And, and my dad was a drug addict, and my mom has a lot of emotional problems that she hasn't dealt with. And I ran away when I was 14. I was just like, peace out. And I left, and eventually was raised by my grandmother. It took me a while to be open about my anxiety and my depression and stuff. And some of that's kind of like cliche masculinity stuff, but some of it's just, I mean, I don't know. It takes a while for you to even understand it yourself. And I don't even know if I fully understand it, but, I will say that, I've found a lot of humor in the tragedy, and some of the best medicine you can do is to just laugh at it, and laugh at what you're doing, and laugh at the anxiety, and it definitely takes the power away. But I've been writing a lot more about my mental health and depression, and trying to make sense of it. And I was worried that people would give me crap, or call me crazy or whatever, which I already call myself that, so it's easy for them to do too. But I've actually had way more people reach out and just say thanks. I went on medication because of you, or I reached out to my therapist because of you, or you helped me figure out how to better manage my own anxiety. And it's not like I think I'm saying anything really profound. I'm just writing about it and being open about it and being a presence, and that I think really helps. I think that helps a lot of other people, and that's cool for me as a writer, and it helps me not feel so alone. So of course this all is about me, and I feel less crazy by talking more about my crazy, I guess.
Wow. So why do you not have a podcast?
Why do I not have a podcast?
Yeah.
Oh man, I have no desire to hear my voice any more than I already hear it. I have no desire to do a podcast. I have no desire to be a vlogger. I have no desire to go. I went live a few times and I just found it really awkward and I didn't like it. I just want to write. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to write. I like to write. Writing is great for me to help me process the world. You know, if you've got it, parents listening to this, particularly dads, you want to be a better dad, write about being a dad. Like, sit down and just reflect on it. Think about it. Take some time to really understand, like, why is that moment sticking out in your head? Why did you feel like a jerk then? You know, like, write it down and you will be shocked how much. I mean, it's been the best thing that I could have done for my marriage and my family, is for me to just sit down and be reflective about it. You know, I can't count how many times I've been writing a blog post and I'll think to myself, man, I don't know why I can't stop thinking about that. And then I'll be like, oh, it's because I was being a dick, you know? And then I'll go and apologize to my kid, or I'll apologize to my wife. I was like, I just realized that I was being a total jerk back then and I'm sorry. And then, you know, I apologize and I can finish the blog post. So, I mean, being reflective and thoughtful is one of the best things you can do.
That's great advice. Your essay on when the dog was choking on the gingerbread might have been the funniest. It's like a David Sedaris level humor thing. And it's true. It's what you just said. It's like at the end, you're like, can you believe I even said I made the dog say you're welcome, or whatever it is you did. Just so funny. It's like, and the other great thing about this introduction, even in your book, is you say there are no parenting experts. Like, no one is a parenting expert, even if you call yourself one. Parents who view themselves as one, it doesn't matter how much TV exposure, what you put on the label underneath your title on a book, like, no one knows what they're doing. And that is just the most universal feeling, because it's true. And your whole thing about control, and we have no real control over these constantly changing animals. I have 4 kids and it's just impossible. It's always impossible. So you have to just, like, I don't know, buckle your seatbelt.
Yeah, I think we were talking about my son going by the name Flip. Like, whatever you think your kids are going to do, or whatever you hope, or if you even think they're going to be interested in anything you've ever done, like, throw that all out the window. They are definitely their own little people, and they are interested in their own little things. And I don't know. I mean, parenting has been the hardest thing I've ever done. It's the most rewarding. I love the heck out of my kids, but they're definitely confusing. I can't figure them out.
Yeah. I also feel that the more kids I have, the more I realize I have not that much to do with even how they're turning out to begin with. Like, they're kind of born the way they are. And I didn't know that at the beginning. I thought I had, like, whether or not I had the kid, on my lap or next to me in the music class would actually make a difference in, like, their development overall. And what music class, the fact that I even had them in music classes, whereas, like, these guys, I'm like, whatever. It makes no difference. Like, they're just born basically who they are, just like you and I were. And all we can do as parents, I think, or what I've sort of come to realize, is just not mess them up, right? Protect who they are and just, like, try hard not to mess it up.
I know one of the things that I've struggled with is, for a long time, I would compare myself to, we were talking about keep the expectations low for this interview.
Yes.
Well, I did the same thing as a father. I thought to myself, I'll just, I'm doing better than my dad, Well, my dad was a drug addict. He was in and out of jail. Like, the best relationship I had with my dad was when I would visit him in jail, because I knew where he was and I knew where to find him. And for the most part, he was sober, right? And that's a pretty low bar. And so it was a while there before I got into it. I was like, why am I still comparing myself to this guy? You know what I mean? I should be raising my bar even higher. And the thing is with this book too, so much of it was the original pitch was a Christmas book. I wanted to do a book all about Christmas. So that's why the first several essays are about Christmas. But the publisher was like, I don't know if that's going to work, right? And so we eventually settled on a book of fails. And ultimately, this book it's a collection of all my mistakes. But so many of these mistakes, it's like I went into it thinking I was screwing it up, and then found out that it actually wasn't that bad. I actually didn't do that bad of a job. And I think that's like 90% of parenting, is you think you're screwing up your kids in every avenue. And then you start to realize that you were there and you were trying, and that was enough. And that's cool.
And it doesn't even have to be such a verb, like, to parent. Like, growing up, my mom, like, I saw this is back when there weren't a lot of parenting books, and she was definitely more interested in like, romance, like, best-selling, salacious reads and all this other stuff. But she had this one little parenting book, and it was like how to be a better parent or something. And I remember seeing it and being like, what do you mean you're reading about how to be a parent? Don't you know? Like, doesn't that just come with the territory? What do you mean you're reading about it? Like, it blew my mind. And then I think about the 8 trillion books that I have, which mostly go unread. Some, I like to read the funny things about actual parenting, but I don't know. It's all just, there's no real roadmap. But
No.
I think, I don't know, here we are.
We're all lost. It's fine. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like to think that my kids think that I know everything, but I'm just really good at Googling. That's really the fact, is like they'll ask me questions and I Google it.
That's true. Now they don't even ask me. They're just like, Siri.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. My kids are pretty good at asking Alexa how to help with math now, because they know that's of no use.
Redundant. I might as well not even be around. But well, anyway, so what are you going to do next? What's coming next? You're going to keep doing your blog? You have another book in you that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, my thought right now is, I mean, I might do more parenting books, but I would like to write something more about, I'd love to write a really funny mental health book. I would love to write something that's like a really funny look, like just dark funny, look at my own mental health and trying to understand, well, I guess the goal would be is to help other people know how to overcome this sort of stuff. And I'm not saying I'm the best at it, and I'm still living with it. But I will say that, I mean, one of the best things I ever did was to try and, I mean, so much of what my father did with his drug addiction, whenever I discuss him with my therapist, they're always like, was he bipolar? And I'm like, I don't know. He would have never gone to a therapist, But there's so many parts, these crazy parts in my life when I'll talk to a therapist about it. I was like, he was probably having a manic episode, and then he get jacked up on painkillers and just make it worse, And so understanding how to like take those lessons of bad mental health management that I learned from my parents and try and apply them to, unpacking it, undoing it, and learning how to have healthier habits. So I'm hoping to write something in that vein, but funny. And we'll see if it works out.
That sounds great. Awesome. Well, normally I end by asking people for advice for aspiring authors, but you've given so much advice along the way. But give me your last final shreds of wisdom.
This is the best advice I can give to any writer, and they hate it. They hate this advice. You need to write every day. And there are authors that will disagree with you, but I can tell you, like when I was in grad school, this John Remringer, I'm probably messing up his name, but he wrote a book called Vestments, and it won a Minnesota Book Award. And he came and talked to us, and he pulled out these calendars, and each calendar had each day had a couple stars on it, and each star represented an hour that he wrote. And so he would give himself a star, and there were weeks where he didn't have anything, but for the most part, he had years of these calendars where he gave himself a star. And he said, I recommend to people to write 2 hours every day. And I remember thinking to myself, that's not even a part-time job. And I just dragged my family halfway across the United States to get a creative writing degree, and I wasn't writing part-time. And so it was right then that I said, I'm going to write at least 2 hours a day. And that was probably, that's been 10, 12 years ago. And I write way more than that now. But if you write every day, you'll get somewhere. And you're going to write to no one for a very long time. Like, that's just the facts. But that's when things started getting better for me. And I also would say, if you're married, sit down with your spouse and establish that schedule. I write in the mornings, and the whole family knows I write in the mornings. And if you bother dad during writing time, he's a jerk about it. Like, I am territorial. This is my time. I have claimed it. And that's when you're going to get the most writing done. Right. Figure out a time, establish it with your family, and then be a jerk about it. And you'll get more done.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Clint, thank you so much. Thanks for talking to me about your views of parenting and your books and all of it. This was really fun, and I can't wait to read your next book and follow along. It's been really awesome.
Thank you. It was awesome being on here, and I appreciate your time.
No problem. All right. Take care. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye. You too.
Bye.